Hey, how are ya?
I'm all right. How are you?
It's like you're in the Big
Happened
Brother chair.
last week.
Every time I see it, it's like you're in the Big Brother chair. You're about
Yeah.
to
Do you
do
like
the
it?
diary. It's very nice. It's
Well,
great.
this is the spot for breath work because it's sunshiny and brings good vibes, so it's all good.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. How are you doing? How's your week?
Yeah. All right. I heard you saying it feels like it's been ages. No, I mean it feels like it's been a long week, but at the same time, we've just been at home every day. So, well, most of us have been at home. So.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well, I mean, it feels like everything's revolving at such a massive rate these days that, you know, that even though you're not doing much, or the majority of the nation aren't doing much in terms of just staying put and quarantine, things just seem to be evolving very, very quickly. And that's why I think this breathwork session really resonated with a lot of people last week. So yeah, and you're going to be going back, I think, probably to emergency work now or frontline clinical responsibilities rather than
Yeah,
academic.
definitely. I mean, I think it will be a case of starting to balance because the shifts are becoming longer, right? So they're
Yeah,
running kind of 3 days on, 3 days off schedule, where doctors are doing 12-hour shifts for 3 days and then a couple of days off. So it's just a kind of balancing act, really. But it's exactly as you say, like. I got some really nice direct messages like from people in the last week,
great.
which is awesome. People who enjoyed last week's session, and today is going to be a kind of recap of last week for those who are new and who missed last week. And we're going to go a little bit deeper with breathing techniques. So that's really exciting. And I wanted to start actually by addressing like one or two messages that I got in my inbox since last week, because it might be that some other people would be asking these questions. So it's good to have a chat and clear up on that stuff before we get going.
Okay.
So one of the questions I had was, do you think it's okay to be practicing breath work while the virus is going around?
Okay. Yeah. Fair question.
Yeah, I think that's super sensible, right? Because obviously what we're encouraging to do is breathing more or consciously into the immediate environment, and yet we're also trying to contain air droplets. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. Yeah, I think for me, I know one thing I wanted to say for sure, but have you been asked that about
I
anything?
haven't been asked that, but I can understand it's a reasonable question if you're doing something like this outside your home. We know that this particular virus can be something called aerosolized, so it can be changed into a format that makes it hang around in the atmosphere. That generally happens during coughing, but also during some procedures, including non-invasive ventilation and intubation as well, which is why it's so important to wear full PPE whenever healthcare workers are involved in those kind of procedures. When it comes to doing this kind of stuff in your own house, I think the risk is going to be a lot lower, other than if you're living with someone who is COVID positive, in which case you're at risk regardless, however much you breathe or touch things and stuff. So if you're doing this in the comfort of your own home, I would say the risk is probably lower, or something not to worry about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to ask, right? One thing I completely agree with all of that because isn't it funny how we have to give like safety precautions for everything now? Like everything's got to have some sort of safety precaution. What really interests me about that question was I started to think about why nasal breath work and why nasal breathing over mouth breathing might be a really interesting thing to play with at the same time, right? Because the nose is like our natural filter and the body's natural defense mechanism against stuff in the air, so droplets or viruses and stuff. And the mouth doesn't quite have the same mechanism of a filter against this sort of thing. So your nose has got all these tiny little hairs and cilia in it, and they form a kind of barrier and a moisture forming mechanism when you breathe. And therefore it might be one of the reasons why nasal breathing might be slightly more. I mean, you can still, of course, get the virus through that mode, but it interested me because it made me think maybe I should explain why I'm teaching nasal breathing.
Yeah.
Other thing, which for me is fascinating from a science point of view, and I get asked this a lot by yogis in my class, why nasal breathing over mouth breathing and so on. I think they both have their uses, but there are specific receptors in the nose that, and by receptors I mean like sensing mechanisms that communicate directly with the brain, separate from the breathing mechanisms of the chest. So these receptors in the upper part of the nose allow motion to be detected as well as smell. And there's a communication with the part of the brain that triggers relaxation independent of the chest. So I think there is some value to nasal breathing for the purposes of relaxation and for the purposes of this particular breath work anyway. So that would kind of be my answer, I think.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's very involved, and I think it definitely speaks to your expertise in this area. So that makes a lot of sense to me as well. That makes a lot of sense to me as well. And I think it's certainly something that I'm learning a lot more about with regards to changing vagal tone, changing how actually doing breath work regularly, as I have been doing this week, definitely changes the way I breathe throughout the whole day as well. I'm a lot more conscious of it, particularly when I'm answering emails and that kind of stuff. I actually catch myself holding my breath, becoming apneic almost, and actually just continuing to, you know, make sure I'm breathing properly, my posture and everything else. So yeah, I think there's multiple levels as to why this exercise would be beneficial.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that actually, that there are moments of breath holding. I mean, I found myself, I don't always recognize when I'm holding my breath. And it's so important to be conscious of that moment when you realize that you are breath holding. And another thing, actually, maybe we should incorporate this into tonight's technique, actually. I'm going off piece now. But maybe we should incorporate the sigh, because I think the sigh is an incredibly, well, okay, speaking scientifically rather than like emotionally about it, I think one of the things is that the sigh is like a reset button.
Okay.
It's like pressing the reset button on your breathing apparatus. So we should practice that tonight. We should do a sigh. Sigh through an open mouth, I think it's a lot more generating. I think it's a lot more releasing. So we'll do that at the start and the end of practice. That's a really unique way to, when you have that moment when you realize you're breath holding, taking a really, really super deep breath in and then sighing out is a way to reset the cycle. Okay,
great. Yeah. We were talking a little bit before this. We're going to go through exactly why we're doing breath work, why it works, just like a quick recap, and then a similar sort of practice that we did last week, but perhaps a little bit longer. So if people want to join in, definitely join in. Just wear something comfy, like I'm just wearing a tracky bottoms. I'm sat up against my sofa here to give me a little bit of support. But other than that, that's all you need. And I'm sat on the floor as well.
Yeah, and I'm right in the sun, so I'm just going to move.
Yeah, sure, yeah, adjust it.
Okay, so just going over what we went over last week. So one of the key things really is that there are certain aspects that teach us how to down-regulate our nervous system. So reviewing some of that, I think the first thing is when we slow our rate of breathing. So when we start to slow the rate from our normal breaths per minute down to a slower rate, we provide this kind of seesaw effect on the nervous system, where the part of our nervous system that's normally in overdrive can start to slow down, and the part of our nervous system that is tending towards resting, digesting, that can start to upregulate. And what we want is this kind of seesawing. And that seesawing occurs in two situations. One, when we slow the rate, and two, when we prolong the exhale slightly longer than the inhale. So we have this natural degree of inhalation and exhalation. And you know what came to mind last time, because we're using this metaphor of the wave, like an ocean. But you know, the breath is like so the natural volume of breath that we breathe in and out without any extra effort is called tidal volume, like the tidal volume, right? So it's like a tide like that. There's about, we inhale and exhale approximately 500 mils of air, like depending on body weight.
Yeah.
And that's without any extra effort. And it's like this mini tide that we breathe in and out, but there's so much more capacity to that. And so when you prolong the exhale, you're prolonging and increasing your lung capacity that few more breaths. So slowing the rate, prolonging the exhale slightly longer than the inhale. And the third thing is engaging the lower muscle groups. And today we're going to work on, so last time we went to the sides of the ribs, and we're going to do that again. But today, for those who were here last week, we're going to play with also what it feels like to breathe from the front and from the back of the chest.
Okay.
Lungs are super huge, and they're longer at the back than at the front. Not many people know that, but there's like a little tail, right, at the back.
Because it kind of goes up here and then slides backwards away from you towards your back. Yeah.
Exactly. So it slides back. There's longer capacity at the back, and also above your collarbone, there's about 2 centimeters of lung, like up that extends like about. So really, we're talking like lungs from here, like right down to, you know, below the ribs. And I think that's what's really nice to engage with on an embodied level. So enough talking now. we're here to unwind and relax and not listen to lots of chatter. So please find a comfortable seat. And if you're holding your phone, you may want to place it a little bit away from you so that you've got it seated down. And you should be able to practice with just my voice. But if you need to, blink your eyes open gently, watch Rupi as he's being guided, and then blink your eyes closed and continue with the practice. So finding a seat either on the floor or on a chair. And beginning by adjusting our posture and tuning in. So Rupi, I'd like you to shrug your shoulders right up to your ears and then roll them back down the spine. Lovely. So nice and relaxed, shoulders away from ears with a slight squeeze of the shoulder blades all the way back. And once you've done that once or twice, lengthening the spine and coming into stillness. At this point, you can begin to close down your eyes, or you can have them open if that feels good for you. From here, we're going to begin by bringing just our attention to our breath as it exists in this moment. Giving yourself permission to be guided by me and to relax for this 10 minutes at the end of your long week. Bringing the attention to inhaling through the nose without changing the breath and exhaling through the nose, slowly and gently. And at this stage, there's no need to change anything. Simply bringing the attention to the gentle tide of your inhale and exhale. And this is layer 1, a tall and relaxed posture with a simple attention to detail. Attention on the gentle inhale and the gentle exhale of the tide of your breath as it flows effortlessly in and out of the nostrils. Now you can stay here or progress with us onto layer 2. Layer 2 today. Rupi, I'd like you to take your left hand to the front of your chest and the right hand to your belly button, just like you did last week. Everyone with eyes closed, gently inhale into the front of your palms and exhale, allow your chest and belly to fall gently back to center. Inhaling into the front of the body, feeling the chest and the belly rise, and exhaling back to center. Lovely. And keep going like this, feeling a slight inhalation and exhalation. Now, keeping the left hand where it is on the chest, but taking the right palm, the right hand, and now moving the hand to your back. So somewhere between your shoulder blades, you're going to take the back of your hand, so you don't need to use the palm. You can take the back or the palm somewhere between the shoulder blades and relax your shoulder so it should feel nice and comfortable. But you're aiming for a sensation of accessing that long area of lung at the back. And you're going to inhale gently again through the nose and try to send some breath into your back hand. And as you exhale, back to center. Inhaling into your front hand and back hand together. Exhaling. Feeling the full capacity of your lungs in a forward and backward direction. One more like this. Releasing any tension in the body that doesn't need to be held. Lovely. On your next inhale, taking both hands to your side ribs, just as we did last week. Lower on the ribs with the thumb at the back and the forefingers wrapping around the front of the chest wall. Take an inhale of any length. Feel both hands expand, and as you exhale, feel your chest fall gently back to center. Inhale again, any length. Feel the chest expand laterally, and exhale. Lovely. Taking another breath now, and exhale. Following me now, inhaling for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Inhaling again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Keep going like this. Inhaling and exhaling. Feeling the side ribs expand and release, taking in the full capacity of the breath and bringing all your attention to your palms as they rest on the ribs. Having let go of the count, simply extend the exhale slightly longer than the inhale, in the range that feels comfortable. And when you're ready, keeping the eyes closed, release the palms gently to your lap, but holding on to the sensory memory of the palms on the rib cage. Storing a memory of how it felt to expand front and back, belly and chest, side ribs, the full capacity of your breath. And this is layer 2, engaging all the muscles of the chest wall in the full diaphragm breath. Beginning to let any tension in any other muscle group, the jaw, the neck, just drip away as you bring all your attention to the breath. And you can stay here at layer 2 or progress with me onto layer 3. Layer 3, keeping the attention on the rhythm, but now imagining a wave-like motion moving up as you inhale from the base of the belly button up through the heart center, traveling along the spine to even 2 centimeters above the crown. As you exhale, allowing that wave to wash over the front of the face, chest, and abdomen as the exhale is followed to its natural conclusion. Continuing like this, inhaling all the way up and exhaling, releasing. That's it. Inhaling the sensation of a wave rising through the body, reaching a maximum, and exhaling the tide over the body as all tension washes away. Extending that exhale slightly longer. And as you do so, can you begin to rest your attention on the end of the exhale? So the next time you exhale, find that small, sweet moment at the end of the exhale where there is a pause. And pause there for 1 or 2 seconds longer than is comfortable before drinking in the next inhale in your own rhythm and your own time. And as you inhale, drinking the breath all the way up to the point you feel its maximum, and then again finding the pause at the top of the inhale, extending that pause, that peaceful moment by 1 second, and then allowing the exhale to fall away. Inhaling and exhaling, but this time pausing for 1 second longer and visiting that moment of peace between the breaths. In yoga, we call it the kumbhaka, the pause, the peaceful moment between the breaths. And as this is a mini breath hold, in a moment, after a few more breaths, we will be taking a sigh to finish the practice. So spending the last few moments enjoying the wave-like sensation of your breath and the sweet pause between inhale and exhale. And when you're ready, all together, let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Inhale up and up and up and up, holding the inhale at the top, pausing for a few seconds, and now parting the lips and exhaling with an audible sigh through the mouth. Let's do that once more. Inhaling all the way up, allowing the chest and belly to expand, and finding the kumbhaka at the top of the inhale, pausing, parting the lips and sighing all the way. Returning to your natural breath. And blinking the eyes open when you are ready. So we went through peeling back the 3 layers again, but this time, so layer 1 is posture and permission. So arriving in the space, tuning in, giving yourself permission to unwind, and posture, which is super important with the shoulders and the chest. And then layer 2 is different to last week. Like starting to tune into what it feels like to have lateral expansion, what we call forward front or anterior posterior, expansions. It's this kind of, it's this recognition that the lungs are a 3D structure, and so often think about the lungs as just the chest, this like window across the breastbone, but it's right down to here, and it's so much, towards the back. So engaging in this 3D structure is layer 2, and then layer 3 was the sort of wave imagery, the metaphor, but also this new element of the kumbhaka and this pause, which during our week is so often a struggle, right? Like we find ourselves breath holding. It can be unintentional or intentional, but the best way is to learn what that feels like and get comfortable with it, and then sigh it out afterwards. So I don't know, how did you find that? Okay.
I found that really, really, really different actually from last week in a good way, because last week, like you said, we were just putting our hands on the side and focusing on breathing through the nose. And this week, in addition to the extra moves, I actually kind of even though I know exactly how the lungs work and stuff, and we auscultate and stuff as general medical exam and emergency, feeling actually where it expands and actually having that sensory input with the hands, and then breathing and then maintaining that sort of sensory memory was really impactful. And also your descriptions this week I thought were incredible. So the tidal wave that we were talking about before, and actually how you use that to go up and down. And then the slight integration of the yoga terminology too, of the pause in between the breath. It's really, because I do a mixture of different meditative practices, right? So I will do transcendental, I will do breath work, but I do enjoy guided as well. And actually having someone guide you through breath work is like one of my favorite things, one of my favorite ways to meditate. So I found it super, super relaxing, really, really relaxing. Your voice is great.
I'm glad, because actually, I just need to apologize to everyone watching, because the sun in this room has meant that I've gone into shadows, but you were always super clear. So I'm so going to bin this chair next week and move over there somewhere, because you were super clear. And I think what's really useful for me is being able to speak and for you to demonstrate. I think that's super nice. And I don't get to do that very often. So yeah, thank you so much. And
That's great. No, thank you.
it's a testament to practice, right? Like, because what you've said is you did it a few times during the week with the 7-day challenge, and I did it too.
Yeah.
But the actual thing is, like, can we keep this up, like, day on, day in, week in, week in? It's so quick. It just involves a few little, moments, giving yourself permission to do it, and then the mental imagery really starts to get more vivid.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think, this week I'm trying to inspire people with what they choose to do within what they would have done for a commute. Obviously, excluding key workers and healthcare workers. What are you going to do with that 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes plus sometimes of commuting time that you would have otherwise, just been on your phone or walking to the station or getting on a bus or driving, whatever. So can you use that for 10 minutes of breath work? Can you use that in a more productive way that's going to help you as well? Or are you just going to give yourself 10 minutes to just stay away from the kids or something like that? People are in different scenarios. So I think that's going to be super impactful. And I definitely think we should do this again. I haven't got my rota, I'm working tomorrow. And some other points during the week, but I don't know whether I'm working next weekend. It's kind of like shifting.
Let's leave it open. Yeah. Just punches.
Brilliant. Well, this has been awesome, Rabia, and hopefully we can do it again next week at the same time. And then in the meantime, for anyone that's watching, thanks so much. I've tried to look at some of the comments, but it's quite hard to. But there's loads of love coming for you.
I saw one comment that I think we should both respond to immediately.
Oh yeah.
One that said, "Is this a breath?" I can't find it now. Is this a breath work for prevention of corona?
Oh,
no. Not. I'm sorry. I mean, there's no explanation needed. It's not for prevention of corona. There is no way to prevent corona unless you stay home and sensible hygiene measures. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was the only one I saw midway through, and I just was like, yeah, that's it.
yeah, that's quite clear. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Rabia, and hopefully I'll see you next week, and stay safe.
Sounds great. You too, mate. Bye.
See you, pal. Bye now.
Thank you so much for watching this video. There's so many others for you to enjoy right here. Check out thedoctorskitchen.com, sign up to the newsletter where I give science-based recipes every single week. There's a podcast, there's 2 books, there's loads more content on social media, doctors_kitchen, and I hope to see you there.